Hey guys, what's up? It's Elijah. Welcome back to my channel. So today we have pigtails going on. I don't know how I like them, but you know, just vibe with me. We're just testing it out. But today we're finally gonna be doing another Wattpad video. I know you guys have been really patient with me and just waiting for this day to come. It is finally here. And today's gonna be a mix of like a video that you guys voted on my community page. You guys wanted me to do a video based on like my journey on Wattpad and kind of how I got started. So this will be focusing on that, but I also have a lot of tips that you guys have been asking about. So it's gonna be kind of a two-in-one video. But yes, if you are new to this Wattpad series that I kind of have going on, I have multiple videos on Wattpad. I have a whole playlist that'll be linked in the eye. Yeah, I kind of just like go over Wattpad and fan fiction and everything of the sort. So if you guys find these videos helpful, please let me know. I know you guys have been commenting and you guys are being so sweet about the whole thing, and it warms my entire heart. I'm so glad that this is helping some of you guys. Let's go ahead and get on into this video. Before we get into the Wattpad, we're going to be giving today's shout out. Today's shout out goes to I Love You 3000. They said your tips helped a lot. I just started my story this week and it's already got 100 reads. Thank you. Oh my freaking god. First, thank you for commenting. Second, I'm so glad I was able to help you, and I'm so glad your book is doing well so far. I hope the best for you and I hope the best for your book. All you have to do for a shout out, obviously like the video, comment, subscribe, turn your notifications on. Yes, that is today's shout out. So I have all my notes lined up here. We're going to be going topic by topic by topics. Yes, let's just get started with this video. I'm super excited to do this. First thing we're going to be talking about is, you know, me and how I kind of got started. So first thing here is, what year did you start Wattpad or writing fan fiction? I believe it was September of 2016. This was when I was still living in San Diego. I was 13 at the time. I think I was like 13, 14, something of that age. I was literally barely a teenager. And I kind of got started because I was reading like these imagines on Instagram, because at this time it was like Palms, like Mario, Gio, Julian, Giovanni, also just like musers in general. Like, this was during the Musical.ly era, and like I would be reading these imagines about, you know, musers and things like that, and I really thought it was super cool. It's like, I want to do my own version, so I decided to create a fan fiction based on Mario Selman. I don't know if you guys watched this video, but I did a video where I read my very first Wattpad fan fiction. Now, that wasn't the first fan fiction that I ever published on Wattpad. It was the first one I ever wrote, and then I published it on Wattpad. If you guys want to watch that video, I'll link it in the eye and in the description box. It was so funny and so cringy and so bad, but that is the first book that I ever wrote. Honestly, glad to say that I'm glad I wrote it, because without me wanting to write it, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have you guys here watching this video. So like, honestly, I can't even be mad at myself. Started in like 2016. On my fan page, I started publishing chapters on Instagram, and Instagram had like a caption limit for like 100 characters, so I couldn't really say much for a chapter. That's why that book is like 90 chapters long. What is the first book you wrote / first one that you published on Wattpad? What genre were they and how many chapters were they? So I have my Wattpad pulled up here. The first book that I ever wrote in my entire life. This book is called My Best Friend's Brother. Now on Instagram, every chapter would average over 100 likes, which is actually really fucking good. Like, honestly good for like Instagram fan page. But on Wattpad, obviously both of these are fan fiction. I specialize in fan fiction. Yeah, I write fan fiction, so that's the genre. And this book has 96 chapters. It currently has 7,600 reads and 126 votes. It's actually trending number 3 in the hashtag part of my story, which is actually cool. But yeah, this was the first book that I ever wrote. It is completed. It is mature. There's some scenes in there that I got are very questionable. I don't know why my 13-year-old self knew what that was, but I did. So that is the first book that I ever wrote. But the first book that I ever wrote on Wattpad and published on Wattpad that was ever on my page is called Fighting for Love. It is a Giovanni Jara fan fiction. It has 16 chapters, 39 votes, 1.1k reads. It's completed. It's also mature. I'm not very proud of this book. I haven't read this book, so if you guys want a video of me reading this book, let me know, because this is the first book that I ever published on Wattpad, first one I ever wrote on the Wattpad app. I don't know how I feel about this book. It's not my favorite, obviously, but I mean, you guys can read it if you want to, just to see how much I've developed my writing. I don't recommend, because all of these books are really cringy. You know what? I did write it, so I have to take pride in it. But yes, those are the first 2 books that I ever wrote and published on Wattpad. People still do read them. I still get notifications saying that people voted on it and are commenting on these books, and it's very triggering to me, because these were written in like 2016, and I was like I said, I was barely a teenager. Kind of scary if you ask me. So the next question is gaining readers. When did you start gaining followers / readers? To be completely honest with you, once I published my book Fighting for Love, once that was published, it took a little bit for it to start getting pushed out there, but since at the time the twins and like Palms in general was like a trending thing and it was like very popular because people were on Wattpad, you know, looking for fan fictions to read about them. So honestly, it didn't take that long for me to start getting reads and start getting followers. Obviously, I didn't fucking get 2,000 followers in one day because that's not how the algorithm works and that's not how people read on Wattpad or use the Wattpad app, and I know that now. It slowly grew, you know, day to day, take it day by day, then week by week, then month by month. It didn't really reach 1,000 reads until maybe 2 years after I published it. If I'm being completely honest, it took a minute for it to get to 1,000 reads, which is actually good for like your first Wattpad book, if I'm being completely honest with you. That says a lot about even my cringy 13-year-old writing. But also, the more you publish, the more people want to read your stories and the more it's going to get pushed out there because the more you're publishing, if that makes sense. But I also started gaining followers and readers in 2016 because, like I said, that's the year I started publishing. So now here's the question that all of you want to know: how do you gain readers and followers? I actually did get a question. I posted on my community tab asking you guys, okay, comment any questions you have. I'm gonna make another Wattpad video. Give me any questions, any tips you need, etc. I got a question. I forget who asked it, but it'll be on the screen. How do I gain readers? How do you gain readers? How do you gain followers? There is no secret. There's no secret to how to automatically just get 2 million readers. Like, it doesn't just happen overnight. I can tell you that it does not happen overnight. So the first tip I have for you is to use hashtags. Now, this can be misconcepted as like, okay, they're stupid. Why do I need to use hashtags? The reason Wattpad tells you to use hashtags when you're publishing your book is because once you type in the related hashtags, you know, to your book, the reason it tells you to put hashtags and use the max amount of hashtags, because once you put in those hashtags, it's gonna push your book out through those hashtags and reach the readers that, and whoever's reading books in those specific hashtags, it's gonna recommend it to those people. Those people are more likely gonna click on it because they're in those hashtags. Using the max amount of hashtags on a book is how people find it. If you have 0 hashtags, then Wattpad isn't gonna know what categories and audiences to push your book out to. 100% just right there. If you don't have any hashtags, or if you don't use proper ones, let's say your book's about a girl marrying a soldier, but your hashtag goes marrying a billionaire, you know, if your book is being pushed out to the wrong hashtags or no hashtags at all, Wattpad isn't really gonna know how to help you when trying to get people to read your book. So in that sense, really, like, my number one tip is to use max amount of hashtags. Use more if you can. I usually just use the max amount of hashtags because I don't feel like I need to use more. Just type whatever is related to your book in the hashtags and that will do. That is my number one tip when gaining readers, or if you want to gain readers and followers. Use hashtags when publishing your book because that will literally bring people that you need in. Okay, don't mind the fans, look like crap, just woke up editing, but I just got a question saying what tags should I use when publishing my book or something related of that sort. I kind of answered this question here, but I just want to preface, not trying to use big words I don't even know exist, but use hashtags that are related to your book, like I just mentioned. If your book's about, you know, TikTokers and going to a TikTok event, use the hashtags TikTok. You know, let's say the event Social Bash, hashtag Social Bash. Mention the TikTokers that are in the book. Do that. Don't put fucking Noah Constantine. Not me thinking of Kyrie. Don't put fucking Harry Styles in a tag if he's not even in the book. You know what I mean? Make sure all your tags are related to your book, because using the wrong ones could genuinely be bad for your book. And book's sitting in Harry Styles hashtag and he's not even in it. So that's gonna make more people not want to click on it because it's in the wrong hashtag. And it's like, that's not even related to this hashtag. Why is the book here? So that's my tip. Make sure they're related. Hopefully that made more sense. Next, make sure your book isn't all over the place. If your book isn't cohesive, let's say one chapter, like, I can even say this for myself. My old books, my Mario one made no sense. I didn't know how to use dialogue and, you know, time frames and things like that. If your book is all over the place, one chapter somebody's getting pregnant, the other somebody's dying, the next somebody's doing this, somebody's doing that. If none of it makes sense, if all of it's just randomly happening and doesn't really go together, that could be what's not attracting people to your book. I know people won't know what your book is about until they read it, but honestly, I don't know how to describe this, but like, when your book is organized and, you know, well punctuated and things like that when you first publish it, I feel like Wattpad knows that and they're more likely to put it out compared to a book that's 100 chapters long but doesn't make any sense and does not correlate with each other. Like, Wattpad is a book app. You have to keep that in mind. And if your book doesn't really seem like a book, then that's really gonna fuck it up. So just make sure your book isn't like all over the place, isn't jumbled. Make sure it's cohesive, it goes together, it makes sense. When it comes to, I can't English. Next thing, make sure your book is an interesting topic. It shouldn't be anything too cliche or basic. It can draw readers away if it is. Like I've mentioned I've mentioned this so many times, your book can be cliche and basic. It could be as basic as fuck, it could be cliche as fuck. But if it's way too cliche, like if your reader's predicting what happens in your book by the beginning of chapter 1, that's a sign. Like, nobody should be commenting on your book saying, oh my god, this and this and this and this is gonna happen, and it does happen. That's telling you your book is way too cliche and basic. Like I just said, it can be cliche, but there's ways of being cliche without being too cliche. The whole point of writing is to add your own flair, add your own scenarios, your own characteristics and things, and add your own flair to the book, so it's not perceived as, oh my god, this is just another book about her falling in love with somebody she shouldn't be in love with, you know? And following along with, you know, not being too cliche, if your book is more of an interesting topic or more of a topic that not really many people would search for, then I feel like that also helps your book. Obviously, I'm in the fan fiction department, and a lot of fan fiction is kind of similar. Like, a lot of the fan fiction that I used to read was all the same, like, oh my god, falling in love with a TikTok star, etc, etc, bumping into him in the hallway because we go to the same school, etc, etc. But recently I've been finding so many different ones that are about cases, falling in love with the criminal, step siblings, like all this drama that happens, and then also like people getting stalked. Like, there are so many really good fan fictions that I've read. Make sure your book is an interesting topic. It could be a basic topic, but make the book interesting. Like I just said, add your scenarios, add your backstories, and everything that you put into the book will determine how many readers and how many people are going to want to read it. You're more likely to get readers if the book is unique. Ooh, next tip, having a nice cover and a good description also help when it comes to gaining readers for your book, because if your cover doesn't really look appealing, or it doesn't look, you know, intriguing, or it's not really, like, if it's one of the automatic ones that Wattpad gives you, nobody's gonna click on that. They're just gonna be like, wow, they didn't really even take time to make a cover for the book. They're not gonna click it. Also, if your description gives away too much, or doesn't give away enough, or doesn't really, or just says something like, oh, read to find out, some people won't find that appealing and won't click it, because the whole summary concept of the description of the book on Wattpad is to give the readers an idea of what the book is about, so that can draw them in to want to read it. Now, in some cases, you don't have to have a description. Like, I read books that literally just say, read to find out, or I love this book, or completed, just read, and it was actually a really good fucking book. But in most cases, I usually stay away from that, because a lot of the time I don't like the book. Really, having a really good description can help. Now, I know somebody commented on my video today, I think it was today or yesterday, I don't know, it'll pop up on the screen, saying that they were struggling coming up with a description for the book. Now, my best tip for you, you can scroll through my Wattpad and see all my descriptions. It gives a very brief summary of what the concept of the book is about. Like the one, you guys, if you guys follow me on Wattpad, you know I think by the time you see this, the first chapter of Step Brothers should be up. So as you can see in that description, I gave a very brief like scene from the book, from the first chapter. But also I see a lot of people doing like, in which character So like mine says in which she moves in with her mom and her fiance and his son, because that's basically what the book is based on, and a lot of things start to happen after that happens. My best thing for you, whatever concept you have in your brain of what you want your book to be about, kind of put that in the summary. Like, let's say you want your book to be about somebody getting kidnapped and kind of like their rescue story, kind of put that in the summary, in which a girl gets kidnapped and I don't really know much about kidnapping stories, because I don't write those.
Also wanted to say, I don't want to seem insensitive when it comes to talking about kidnapping, because I know it's a serious thing and it happens to people, and it's happened to people, and it's currently happening to people. So I just want to make sure that you guys know I'm not trying to be insensitive. It was just the first thing that came to my brain when it came to like a fictional story. I don't know, I just wanted to let you guys know I didn't mean to. I don't know if I sounded insensitive. I just want to make sure you guys know. I know it's a real thing. I know it's happening to people. Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
Make it short, sweet, and simple, but also make it somewhat gravitating. You want to make sure that the person who's reading that is gonna 100% want to click on it. That's my best advice. That's the best way I can describe it. I'll pop up some of my summaries on the screen so you guys can see kind of how I do my descriptions and, you know, preview and things like that, because I don't know how to describe it, but it's important when you have a decent description. Also, tip, if your book is completed, then that is 100% gonna draw more people in, because people are more likely to read a completed book, because a lot of people on Wattpad start fan fictions and don't really update that consistently. Being one of them on my old books, I'm starting to get better, you know, but if your book is completed, more people are gonna want to read it because they already know it's done. They don't have to wait for any more chapters. It's completed. They can finish it within the same day. But if it's not, it also helps if you're consistent with uploading chapters. If you're not consistent with uploading chapters, then people are just gonna feel like, okay, well, I'm gonna save this in my library, and whenever they update, I'll read it. But if you think about it, the longer you wait to publish a chapter, the more that person's gonna forget about the book, and once you publish, they're not really gonna care, like, oh, I don't remember what happened, I'm not gonna read it, I don't even go Wattpad anymore. Fuck it, I don't care. The more consistent you are with uploading chapters, the more readers you can get, especially if it's a new book like mine. So I'm uploading every Sunday, sometimes on Saturdays too. I feel like people are really just addicted to consistency and completion. And make sure you mark the book as completed, because if it says ongoing but your summary says completed, it kind of throws somebody off, like, what? There's a box to check your book completed in the settings for your book on Wattpad. Next topic we are going into is writer's block. Now, this is something that I've gotten multiple comments about. This is something I've gone through so many times writing Stepbrother. Like, I can't even stress to you how many times I've texted my friend Tati and I was like, I have fucking writer's block and I want to get this book out before the new year starts. If you don't know what writer's block is when an author is unable to produce new work or experiences a creative slowdown, or you have no ideas, you don't know how to continue with what you already wrote or what you want to write. It's just something that every writer goes through, and it's not a bad thing. Like, it's completely normal. It's just you get super creative and super excited and super inspired all for like maybe a good month, and then like the next 3 months you have no inspiration, you don't know what the fuck to do, you have no ideas. And this is just because I feel like all of your creative juices flow for so long and then they just stop. How do you get over writer's block? There is no scientific method. There is no right or wrong way. Everybody does different things. It works in different ways for different people. The way I get over writer's block, I know this is not gonna work for everybody. This is what I do. It usually boosts my creativity and boosts my inspiration. This works for writer's block and gaining inspiration as well. I'll go on Wattpad and I will search, like, let's say I'm writing Kyrie Constantino fanfiction. I'll go on Wattpad, search Kyrie Constantino, and I will find a random book that has a decent amount of rates, that has good votes, and I will click it and read it. And for some reason, reading a book that's related to the person that I'm writing about will just instantly give me inspiration and give me ideas and just make me go, like, make me just want to, oh my god, I have this idea, write it on my notes, I have this, let's do this, I have this, let's do that. But reading a fan fiction or reading a book related to what I'm writing about just instantly gets me up and gets me want to start writing again. Obviously, it's not going to boost everything that I need to, you know, write a full chapter, but it gives me ideas and slowly gets me out of my funk and makes me a little bit more inspired to write. It's not 100% effective, and like I said, it's not going to work for everybody, but that's usually what helps me. I'll literally read fan fictions for like a week straight, and usually after a week or two of me reading fan fictions about, you know, whoever I want to write about or whoever I am writing about, it'll help me. That's what I do. I don't know if it's gonna help anybody, but honestly, you don't even have to read a fan fiction. Whatever genre of book you're reading, you could really just read a book in that genre. And I feel like reading a good book and just reading through anything related to what you're writing about will help you in so many ways. Even if it's not trying to get out of writer's block, it'll also give you inspiration and ideas and give you more things to think about and things to be like, oh, maybe I should do dialogue like that. Maybe I should include details like this, you know, just like small little things will help when it comes to reading a good book in your specific genre department. Creating characters, I get so many fucking questions about this. I can't stress to you, I literally don't even know at this point. Like, I don't know how to help. But here are some of the things I wrote down. Hopefully this helps because I don't know how to describe creating characters. Everything comes into my mind at one point, and then I just write the characters down. Creating names. Honestly, try to make the names as non-cliche as possible. The more unique or uncommon the name is, I feel like the fresher the book feels, because you can open 17 books about 17 different people or 17 different topics, and they all have basic names like Madison, Emily, Sarah, basic generic girl names that everybody knows and that everybody sees in every single book that they read. So I feel like the more unique they are and the more non-cliche that the names are, the fresher the book feels and the newer it feels. I don't know, I just feel like that'll also help with readers as well, because if you see a name of a character in a book that you never really like heard before, or just seems like, oh my god, that's like a really cool name, somebody's gonna want to click on it and be like, oh my god, what is this book about? It doesn't have to be something crazy unique, just a name that you don't see a lot of people have. For example, I have used seasons as names, like Summer, she's the main character in my current book. Autumn, I have that in one of my drafts of one of the books that I never published. And then, you know, like Winter, I honestly have only seen like maybe a couple of books that use the name Autumn in theirs. If you really don't know what name to come up with, you can Google names for girls and boys. I know a lot of basic ones, but there are some in there that are a little bit uncommon. Like, I've googled like names for girls, names for this, names, like I've even googled last names too, because I also struggle with that. I struggled with that a lot of times, especially if I was doing like a really in-depth story and like included their last names into their backstories and things like that. I would Google last names and a lot of generic ones would pop up, but I would also send that like, oh my god, never thought of that, use that. Googling also helps in some cases all of it's basic, but I've gotten a lot of the names that I use in my books from Google specifically. Here's the next tip. If you're going to be using face claims, which I love face face claims. We talked about this in my other Wattpad video. Try to pick a face claim and then come up with a name that suits them best. Example, I'm using Naomi Sky, I think that's how you say her name, as the face claim for Summer Monroe. Now, honestly, you could do either or. I usually make up the names and then pick the face claims that best suits the name, but that could be a little bit contradicting, so I really do recommend picking out the face claim first and then choosing the name, because it's easier to look at somebody's face and be like, okay, who do they look like if their name wasn't this, what would their name be? That's why I chose her face to be Summer. I feel like she really just like spoke the character that I really envisioned Summer to be. If you really don't know what name to use, you can use the person's literal name. Like, if I really couldn't come up with any name, I could have literally just used Naomi, because the book isn't real, it's fiction. It's fake, it's not real. If you're using a celebrity and you don't know what character name to give them, you can use their literal name. It's not gonna hurt anybody, it's not gonna harm anybody. If you are using face claims, please, this is just a random tip, please do not reuse them in your other books. Example, for my Zion fanfiction, I use Lily Chi as the face claim. I would not be using her face in another one of my books, because I feel like that, it's not that it contradicts itself. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it's not against the rules, you can use their face as many times as you want, but I feel like if somebody's really like into your stories and they see you using Lily as a face claim in like 3 different books, and they'd be like, wow, she's like 3, you know, that kind of portrays her face to be like 3 different characters. I don't know, I feel like it's just better if you have one face claim for each book. Anyways, why was nobody gonna tell me my necklace is doing this? And moving on to personality and traits, try to make all of your characters' personalities diverse, meaning have all of them be different from each other, but also not too different, because then again, you want them to get along in some sense. Make sure they're relatable in some ways. Don't make the characters seem like they would never exist in the real world, because if they're not relatable, if they're not somewhat of this generation or anything of the sort, then I feel like it's just gonna be like, wow, they really just seem like a character straight from a book. Like, that can never exist in the real world. Yes, this is a story, but you want the readers to have that connection with the characters, and you also want to have that connection with the characters. You are the one writing it, and you want the people reading it to be like, oh my god, I relate to this character so much. You want to have them emotionally attached in some sense, not too attached, but attached to the point where they relate to the character so much that they'll continue reading the book, or they'll come back and reread the book. Now, coming with your personality, I know I've gotten questions about this too. When I see personality and traits in the real world, it's different, but I feel like when creating characters in a book, they can be very iffy. They can connect. But for personalities for characters, when I think of a character's personality, I think of how they act and who they are as a person. Like, what kind of person are they? Are they open-minded, kind-hearted? Are they like outgoing? And when I think of traits and qualities in a person, I think of like, you know, are they artistic, smart, introvert? Are they tech savvy? Very like small, like kind of like their hobbies, like the things that they do. That's kind of how I separate the two. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more context. I don't really know how to pull it into 2 different categories, because they're very connected in so many ways. But that's kind of how I separate personality and traits. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions about that, just let me know in the comments, because I can definitely try to describe it better. When making their personalities, like I just mentioned, don't make all of the characters have the same thing. Make all of them different. You can make one artistic, you can make one really geeky, you can make one really not very smart, you can make one really rude. Make them diverse, but also keep that common interest and keep that similar energy without the character, so they can all be friends, because you don't want all of them to be super different to the point where it's like, how could they ever be friends? You want to have that common interest or that common relate, or something that they can all relate to together. That way it makes sense that they're friends. Backstories. This is where everybody freezes and they don't know what the fuck to do. It's not necessary to make a backstory, but if you are doing like a very history-based story, or a story that history kind of pops up in the book, or the history comes back to them, you want to have not a full-on backstory, but you want to have a decent enough backstory for everything to make sense. Me personally, when I start writing a book and I'm like, okay, I need a fucking backstory, so like, you know, their character can show a lot, and so that way the reason they act makes sense. Random shit about what I want that character to go through, or what they already went through, it'll pop into my head and I'll write it down, and whatever doesn't make sense, I'll just immediately eliminate. Basically I'll write down like things like, I want them to go through this, and this, or I want them to currently go through this, and this. Like, I'll have things from their past and from like, you know, about to happen. If that makes sense, 2 different categories. Example, dad passed away at a young age, her mom got remarried, they moved around a lot. You basically tell their life and bring the readers into the present day. Tell the story of what happened in their past, and you kind of like bring along like the very important events until the present day. Tip: when writing a character's backstory, you don't have to reveal it all or talk about all of it in the first chapter. Kind of let the pieces fall slowly. So as the characters are getting to know one another, so are the readers, if that makes sense. So when you're talking about the character's backstory, don't push all of it all into the first chapter. Kind of spread it out in between. So that way the characters are getting to know each other at a normal pace. And so the readers are also getting to know that character. It's kind of like a surprise, and it kind of keeps them on their toes because they don't necessarily know everything about that character and don't know why they act the way they act. So it kind of just like follows each other. If you genuinely do not know how to come up with names, traits, or anything of the sort, you can try using a generator. I found this specific generator. It comes up with traits, backstories, first and last names, and everything. I forgot what the website is. It'll be on the screen, and it'll have like a little thing playing, or like screenshots of like how it works. You basically put in male or female. There's like different options that you can do, and then when you click generate, it'll have a first and last name, the backstory, and like basically everything you basically need for a character. You don't necessarily have to use a name or anything like that, but hopefully this helps when it comes to making one, because it's kind of hard to make diverse characters and make them all different if you don't really know traits to give them or aspects of their life. So hopefully this helps. Generators, there's so many out there. You can literally Google character name generators, backstory name, what? Like there's so many different kinds of generators. This is the only one that I found that seemed helpful. Next, finding inspiration. Where do you find the inspiration for your books? Honestly, my inspiration, you guys know, I love fan fiction, have been a fan fiction lover since 2016, even before that when I was reading Imagines on Instagram. I love how creative everyone is who writes it. I lean towards both the cliche fan fictions and the non-cliche fan fictions, meaning I read ones that are about like falling in love with your neighbor. I also read ones that are about the characters being criminals and then falling in love with that and things like that. I kind of read both. I love both. I'm a sucker for both. I really find whatever really catches my eye and really what seems interesting to me. Since I am reading books that I love, it inspires me to write my own. For example, this book that I have read like 20 times now, no cap, like no lie. I have the book literally here. It is literally called Slut. It's a Mattia Polibio fan fiction. Who is this by? I literally forget. I think it's by the @Softy Whore. Yes, by Softy Whore. It is a 32-part story. It is so fucking good. This is what inspired me to write Stepbrother. Now, all of the mystery and suspense and like creativity going on in that book was just like, bitch, this is so good. You need to fucking take inspiration from this and write your own. Obviously, like I said, my book was inspired by Softy Whore, but I didn't steal anything that they wrote. Obviously, like, literally in the intro of my book, it is inspired, but I have my own scenarios and my own characters and things like that. Like nothing is similar besides a stalker in a sense. And like I said, it inspired me to write my current book that hopefully you guys are reading and enjoying. So in conclusion, all my inspiration comes from reading a really good fan fiction or a really good book in general. That's kind of what inspires me and keeps me going. I kind of just read books related to mine or Mattia fan fictions. If I see one that pops up and it's good and I'll read it and be like, oh my god, this is really fucking good, I love this concept. Kind of take inspiration. Don't copy anything, take inspiration. Taking inspiration and copying, two different things. That's a whole different topic we won't talk about, but I'm just saying, don't copy. You can take inspiration, credit the inspiration, just don't copy. Inspiration could come from anywhere. Honestly, go do something that you love to do. Like if that's going outside and drinking coffee and reading a book, do that, and I guarantee you'll get inspiration from doing small little things that you really enjoy. Inspiration comes from all different types of things in all different types of ways, so don't really stress yourself out when it comes to finding inspiration, because I guarantee it'll come to you at the most randomest times. I think the last thing we're talking about today is staying motivated, because I still get questions on that to this day. So staying motivated, how do you stay motivated? Honestly, this can be tough, especially if you have a lot on your plate. You can be really excited about your book and then easily a day later completely lose all of your inspiration and motivation and not want to write because you don't want to do it, because you don't know what to write about. I feel like I don't lose motivation that often because I love writing, and I feel like that's why I don't. I honestly love writing. I love the process. I love creating and pushing out ideas and interacting with people that love my books. Like, I feel like I don't lose motivation that often, but when I do, I honestly do the same thing. I read a book in the same category or about the same person I'm writing about, and it honestly will help me. It'll motivate me to be like, okay, if this person can finish this book, then so can I. I can continue mine and I can finish mine. I could push this out. I got this. Sometimes forcing yourself is the best way to go, because motivation comes from, I feel like, within. It doesn't really come from other people. Like, I feel like other people can't motivate you to do something. You have to motivate yourself, because someone can easily say, go write your book, and you'll be like, no, I don't feel like it, because that's coming from that person, so you feel like it's an option. If the motivation comes from you, then I feel like it's 100 times better. So sometimes I force myself and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If that doesn't work out, you can make small goals for yourself, plan it out, set specific times and days for you to write, and also with that, reward yourself for the small times that you do, because let's say you set aside 30 minutes to write on Friday, kind of motivates you because you know you're gonna have a reward after you do it, and it kind of just makes you want to do it because you're like, oh my god, if I do this and if I get this done, I can do this, I can get this, I can buy this. So kind of like it's kind of like tricking your brain in a sense. Make it easier on yourself. Don't really force yourself to do a whole bunch. Start with small goals and small little things. Don't think of writing as work. It's for fun. Yes, you can take it seriously and take pride in what you write, because I do. If your goal isn't to be a best-selling author in New York, then don't take it too seriously. Don't think of it as a job. You're doing all of this for fun, and you're really just doing it because you love the concept of writing and you love creating stories and creating ideas. Just go with the flow and take pride in what you do and really just have fun with it. I literally forgot. I have 2 questions to answer, so we're gonna quickly answer these questions. This question comes from Cheska Pauline Reyes. Is that how you say it? They asked, how can I come up with my characters if I want to write a Wattpad story? I just explained that. Hopefully that helped. How can I have an originated story, meaning an original story? If I'm being completely honest, all stories on Wattpad are not original. Okay, let me take that back, because a lot of stories are original, but everybody kind of bounces off of each other's ideas. Like I said, my inspiration for my book came from Slut, and I know their inspiration probably came from another book that they read, or maybe they really did come up with the idea in their head. But really, when it comes to making an original story, just make sure if you're, inspired by somebody's book, or you want to make it similar, make sure every scenario that happens is coming from your brain. Keep in mind, a concept or like a scenario is not going to be original if it's like a basic one, but as long as you thought of it and you weren't like, oh my god, I'm gonna write this because that person wrote it, then it's completely fine. So try to just make sure every idea that you're coming up with is kind of from your brain, and you're kind of just like, I want to put that there because I like the idea of that. Obviously, like I said, you can be inspired by somebody, but don't go full on copying word for word or idea for idea into your book, because then it's not original. And also, how can I make sure that I focus more on writing them? Love you and your vids. Thank you. I love you too. I don't know in the sense of how you can focus more on writing your characters. Really just make sure that you know who you want that character to be, and you know how you want them to be portrayed. I don't know what you meant by this question. I don't know how to answer this, but like, honestly, just make sure that your characters are 100% saying the things that you want them to say, and they're acting how you feel they should act, or how they should be portraying themselves. And then Princess Pink 152 asked how to come up with characters' names, their personality, and backstory. I just went over that, so hopefully that helped. I think that was the only other question. Yes, hopefully this helped somebody. Hopefully this made sense. Hopefully I didn't ramble. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any more questions, if I didn't really make sense, or if I didn't cover anything that you wanted me to talk about, comment below, answer some questions for you guys. I have an entire playlist dedicated to all my Wattpad videos, so if you guys want to watch them, I'll have a link in the eye and in the description box. Like this video if you guys like it, and yes, I really do hope I helped you. Yes, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys super soon with another one. And yeah, bye.